Now, before we continue and on with our program, is Warren Goddard here? Would you stand up? This is a pro-life banquet coming October the 12th. Isn't that right? So if you are interested, where is that going to be held?
In the Chateau Restaurant, Manchester.
Okay, and if you are interested in that, you need to see him. Just wave your hand there, and he will be able to see you if you are interested in that. Thank you very much. Also note on your table, there's a 2008 State Convention, Saturday, October 25 in Manchester. Keynote speaker Richard Heller. So take a look at that as well and be prepared to be involved there. Now we are going to hear from the Executive Director of the Christian Civic League of Maine, recently recognized by the political news website Politicker Maine as ranking 38th among Maine's most influential political leaders. According to the Politicker, this gentleman is a lightning rod in Maine politics. If it's a controversial matter, the chances are pretty good he's somewhere in the middle of the mix. His involvement in many social issues enter into the political sphere as well known and well documented. Love him or hate him, he's the force in Maine state politics. He's here tonight, and he's going to share with you for a few minutes on why the culture wars and the future of freedom involves the preservation of liberty. Please welcome Michael Heath as he comes and addresses us.
Good evening and greetings from the great state of Maine. Diane, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here, and what a delightful skit that was this evening, and the meal was delicious. The Christian Civic League of Maine was formed in 1897 by the president of Bowdoin College and the president of the University of Maine at Farmington. It was then called the Farmington State Normal School. It's still our teachers' college. And it was formed to do three things those many years ago. One, to elect honest and competent public officials. Two, to enact good laws and provide for their impartial enforcement. And lastly, to encourage all the people of Maine in good citizenship. It was formed as a private association. It's always been non-governmental, and we've never taken any money from the government. We've always raised our funds from churches and individual citizens and Christians throughout our state. We've enjoyed an unbroken history over the last century of pursuing those three objectives. And in our most recent years, the last 2 decades, have decided, because of the resilience of the Protestant evangelical movement in New England, to place ourselves front and center in what I'll call tonight the resistance movement against the suggestion that all sexual activity that is consensual is moral. That's the big idea that we are all being asked to accept and either live by in our own lives or live with in our families and in our communities, and now I find even in our churches, not just our mainline, what some would consider to be liberal churches, but also I'm finding this big idea gaining traction within our conservative evangelical churches. Again, I want to repeat what that idea is. It's the idea that all sexual activity or thinking is good as long as it's consensual. And it's also morphing into an idea related to gender, where in Maine we're dealing with a situation where a 10-year-old boy has been raised from infancy as a girl. And because of the way our laws have been changed in recent years, the public school is being forced to allow the little boy to use the public school's little girl's restroom. And this is creating, of course, controversy, but more importantly, and more troubling, it's creating confusion and division in such a manner that it's beyond belief. Let me give you an example. I partnered with a local Roman Catholic man who decided to be courageous and stand up and object to this practice in the little town of Orono, which also hosts our flagship state university, the University of Maine at Orono. I went and did a press conference on the steps of City Hall about 2 months ago in Orono. And we discussed this issue with the press of the little boy and the legal pressures, the changes in Maine law. We attempted to do some educating. The response in Orono from the mayor was to immediately begin discussing an ordinance to forbid any future press conferences on the steps of City Hall. Furthermore, a petition was started to assure that the town went on record against me and our century-old ministry and our effort to educate the folks as to the challenges presented by our so-called gay rights law, which includes the term of art, I think, in law, transgender, is included in our law, and that is what puts the public school officials in a difficult spot because they face a potential lawsuit if they don't honor the wishes of this parent. Now, here you have a situation where we're no longer talking about consent between adults with respect to sexuality. You're talking about gender, and you've gone beyond sexuality to the question of biology and gender, and you've, I mean, it's beyond, quite frankly, belief. And it's leading to, of course, problems at every level of our society. What our ministry has attempted to do to address this, because our history is dealing with law and politics, is appeal to the people directly. And I'll close my brief remarks by just telling you what we've done in Maine. In around 1900, we decided to write into our Constitution the right of the people to initiate referendums or to veto decisions made by the legislature. Our organization has exercised what's called a people's veto twice in the last 8 years and has placed the matter of gay rights before the people for a vote twice by people's veto. In every case, our ministry has pretty much stood alone and gone out and gathered the requisite number of signatures in 3 months' time, and we have submitted the question to the people for a vote, and we've been outspent as much as 10-1 in the ensuing campaign, and we won twice. We won in 1999. The people agreed with us by a sliver, 51%, and then in 2001, the legislature put the very same question on the ballot without causing the folks who want this change in law to gather even one signature. The legislators put the question on the ballot. So we had to gather signatures. The legislature in Maine, which has come under the control of this special interest group, placed the question on the ballot without gathering any signatures. There was a second vote. We were again outspent over 10-1, and we won by over 50%, just slightly over 50%, so it tightened up. So 2005 came. As you know, in the last 7 to 8 years, the question of marriage has been connected to the whole debate over sexual orientation, and the legislature passed the sexual orientation law that includes this transgender provision and forced us into another veto. We tried to get the legislature to do the just thing, which was to place this on the ballot, where we had had two previous votes that went against their position in recent history, and we said, okay, you're not going to force them to gather signatures, at least submit it to the people for a vote. because the people have said no to this twice in Maine in the last 7 years. Submit it for a vote. They wouldn't do it. They passed it. We vetoed it again. We took it to the ballot again. We gathered, through our churches, we gathered all these signatures in 3 months. And in 2005, there was another vote, and they finally got gay rights passed. We got 45%, they got 55% in that vote. That was in 2005. And so the point of this evening's gathering, in part, is to honor the power and the authority and the place of the people in our form of government. And what I've found, as in my 20 years of becoming educated and being educated by being involved, by actually leading these efforts, is that the people do indeed have rights and privileges and powers that they have been able to exercise in Maine, and it's been my great privilege to be engaged in that and to be and to participate in it and to see the positive effects of it as we have exercised that right. It's also been very troubling for me to see the way that the politicians and our state government in Maine disrespects and doesn't understand and acts in what I consider to be a corrupt manner in relationship to the people's exercise of that right to petition their government and to get a vote. We've seen a very clear example of that in the state right next door. And it's my hope and prayer that as God enables me to continue to be at our ministry, that we will continue to work to honor the rights of the people to do this and to educate our politicians about why it's important. And I'm so pleased to be here and to offer my enthusiastic support for Diane and your 501c3, your organization, and these wonderful actors who are teaming up with Christian homeschooling organizations and any other organization that will hear this excellent presentation and this important information, and to offer my support and commendation for your great work. God bless you. Thank you so very much.